Mark has been a practitioner, sports practitioner in a range of sports, and has now moved into the QAS and leads a team of 120 people. And so Mark will bring some really good insight into high performance sport. Obviously with the 2032 games looming, that will be a key area. So welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
No problem. So I thought we might just kick off, Mark, with you, with coming into the role last year, I think?
Yes, start of last year.
Yep. So coming into the role, I guess it'd be just keen to understand briefly just, what your team are really focusing on and how you're currently using tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to put some context, the QAS looks after around 500 of the state's best athletes, who many are the country's best athletes, and we have 120 practitioners, which we call performance support, which we wrap around the athletes and coaches. So that's anything from a doctor or a physio to a strength coach or a scientist. And what we did in our recent strategic reshuffle was to create a specific data team of 3 scientists and analysts to really probably drill down on the opportunity that we saw, which was making better decisions that were data-driven. A lot of other countries are doing this very well, and it's something that we're keen to really press forward on. So whether that's in terms of kit, like an accelerometer on a water polo player to quantify load, whether that's a wearable on a female athlete to help track her menstrual cycle and its impact on training. But even if it's things like we have our judging sports, our action sports like BMX and skateboarding, where you've got 60 seconds to impress a judge. What combination of tricks you do? Should you spend time training new tricks or just do a better combination of your old tricks? What do the judges prefer? What scores well? There's a bunch of intelligence you can do behind that impacts performance. So these are the kind of things we're unleashing our data team on.
Thank you. Now, I also did want to say, we've got a couple of questions for the panel, but please, we want it to be interactive. So if you've got a question that you'd like to ask or a comment that you want to make as you're hearing things, please do it during the panel. So put your hand up, shout out, we'll find you. Hand up. Like I said, to do that, and then I have no way to get you a mic, but here.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, especially with the growth in sports tech, one of the things you mentioned was its uptake in school sports. I would presume that would be amongst schools that have existing strong sporting legacies, so high-performing, wealthy private schools, I'd imagine? There's, as a general comment on the I guess more what I'm asking is how is this technology levelling the playing field for some of the things that Robyn was talking about, the extraordinary outcomes that we're seeing left, right and centre. How is it coming further back into the development phase of an athlete that is bridging some of those enormous gaps that athletes are really, from poorer coloured backgrounds, really struggling to compete with their wealthier, wider, at the age when talent is really being spotted around 15, 16. And I just wanted to sort of, where it's Queensland government governs for all Queenslanders, and I wondered if maybe there was a comment you'd like to make on equity of inclusion and access pathways around those technologies.
We joked before we were going to handle some of these answers. I will let Mark comment. He's probably closer to it. I think because the ability of some of this technology is so scalable and so quick to deploy, when I was looking, and we were talking with some of the different countries from the Pacific Islands that don't have the physical infrastructure for a high performance program, don't have the support to connect, school to outcomes. Yeah. So just from where it can make a difference to level the playing field, I think, is how quickly it can be scalable, how easy it can be to deploy, and thinking that it's not just performance-based outcomes. So some of the best examples at the moment emerging, and might be one of the other companies, SportTech here today as well, is around that wellness, that we as developed countries are now thinking more about focusing on, but why should that again have a long tail to getting into parts of the world where it would be as equally as important or more important?
Yeah, I might pick up your question. No doubt, historically, there's confirmation bias with talent testing, and you go to private schools and so on. What the tech is doing is there's a lot more remote field testing that is now possible. It's a big state, so we do have a Youth for 32 program that sends buses around the state trying to identify and test for talent. What the data intelligence is allowing us to be more specific on what we're looking for. You can remote upload scores like you saw there, or speed or jumps to a central database, and then the intelligence is linking sports to athletic potential. Because you might think cycling's your go, but you're perfectly built to be a rower, and you haven't understood that. So using the intelligence to match athlete potential and remote testing, historically you'd need to go on a $30,000 Vicon machine for 3D analysis. Now you can point your iPhone at someone. So the barrier to entry from cost is much lower, and that's one way that we're seeing how data can impact talent ID.
I might just add to that too. I might say I was not built to be a basketball player as well, and I wish that someone told me when I was back at school too. I'm just joking. Can I say too though, the partnerships that we've got in our work, and so Chelsea's here as well from the QAS, hello there, and she and I work together as well to make sure that we can now bring in sports back into schools, and every single school as well, and every single child. So it's about kids, sports, adults as well, and those who are amazing, like the Nat Cooks here. To get Nat in front of a school is amazing for us to do that, and so for us to do those together and work on a continuum is great at the moment, and we just haven't done that before. We've done this elite and then this sort of other part of it, but now it's connected, and so I think that this can actually work.
And I'll probably just throw in another couple of points. One is around, I think esports helps with democratisation, because if you take, for example, Formula One racing, you used to have rich parents basically to get into it. Yeah, right. And so, we now have, and we've got great companies in Queensland that provide tech that can be bought for a couple of $100, and they go through the esport pathway, and they're now being picked up by physical Formula One teams. So I think that's one. And the other is, I guess I'll give a plug for one of the SportTech programs that we're about to pilot, which is based in schools. And so we're doing one in Cairns, one on the Gold Coast, and one in Brisbane as the pilots. But one of the questions, so high school kids will form into teams and develop entrepreneurial problems or solutions to problems. One of the problems is exactly, what if you are a coach or an aspiring athlete and you are located in rural or remote Queensland? How can tech help? And so I think there are opportunities to not just think we have all the answers, but to engage those people coming through the school pathways to be involved in that. Are there key areas that you think are crying out for tech solutions, or priorities that you think tech can help solve? Because probably a lot of people in this room, be it from universities or sports tech companies, would be keen to know that.
So I might start, because Mark's really smart and he's going to make me look really stupid. So I'm just going to start by saying, first of all, equity. So closing that equity gap for me, there's so much space here because we are not actually doing it at all. So what I mean by that as well is that I live in Toowong, so I've got green spaces and parks, and I've got a beautiful space down beside the river, and everyone there is walking dogs, and they've got their kids, and everybody's out there. I went to Cherbourg a little while ago, and the paths don't even connect. So there's just this section of it that doesn't even connect, and just think, how do you cycle there? How do you walk there, and why would you even want to? So for us, we've got to think about the way that we can make sports accessible and to be good enough as well, and better than that. So COVID has done so much damage, and that we are going to be recovering for such a long time. So for those prior to COVID, those like me who walked and ran before that, we walked and ran more. And those who didn't walk and run or do any type of sports, they didn't do anything. And so for them, looking at the data too that we collected in 2020 and 2021, one in two of us gained weight, and 20% of those gained more than 5 kilos within a year. So how do you recover from that when then you do that, then you don't run and walk, and then you don't, and then you're sitting at home, and then there's issues around cost of living again. I mean, this is widening the equity gap. So anything that you can possibly do to help that, whether it's about looking at apps or coaching or wearables or things that anybody can actually do. Thinking about the numbers that I've just given to you, the stats in the state are not actually good enough. We've got to do so much more. So anything that we can do to close that, the more, the better.
Thank you. And Mark, what's going to help our athletes win the medals?
Oh, the winning medals, that's interesting. But just to pick up the sports tech and health, because I'm really interested in this. Like, there's a lot of businesses here. You take a company like Vale. Vale was established to try and predict hamstring injuries in footballers. Now, they are using grip dynamometers to test elderly women who've had falls and the risk of falling again before going back home. So what I want to tell that story for is there is sport tech that can absolutely be leveraged into health benefits, which has a commercial and societal impact. Because what Vale are doing now and the impact they're making is much greater than what they set out to do. So I just want to draw the link to that. Talking about COVID, what it did open our eyes to is the ability to do remote access to doctors using wearables. I think the whole medical industry just loosened their guard a little bit, but you have to be in the clinic. So I think there's never been a better opportunity and an accelerant of COVID, if there was a positive to COVID, of remote testing. Again, portable ultrasound machines are now off the phone when they used to be very expensive. So all of that tech's come in. But, in terms of winning medals, obviously the athletes are the key there. I'd hate to think the tech wins the medals. But at the end of the day, the Olympics is where you win the medals, but the training environment's where it's earned. And a lot of the tech is not a fancy gadget. It's just a lot of really good decisions repeated over and over with the right data in front of the right people, and you just train harder than the next person. That's probably not a very sexy answer. I'd love to say, we've got some special goggles out the back that just help people, but we're still working on those. Or if you've got them, we'd love to see them, please.
They're called Pod Squad. We've got Pod Squad goggles.
Can I just go on the record as saying I love Pod Squad as a name? I just want to say that, Rob.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
Okay, dance off at the end. Okay, so, and I guess that sort of touches on, are there opportunities that you guys see, and, Cam, that you may have seen, and we also have Tiani in the audience from both Sport and Rec in the grassroots and club sports sort of arena. So what you're talking about, Rob, is, there's some scary statistics around kids aren't being active, and then adults aren't active enough, and then, as we get older, it's harder in some ways to keep being active. And so when you look at that pathway from active living, from cradle to grave, I guess, active living to then being involved in grassroots activities, to be involved in club sports, to then, some people make it through to the high performance pathway, but then they retire. And, then sort of how do they transition back in? Are there ways that you see that tech or areas of tech that could help with that whole keep people active their whole lives?
Have a go? Absolutely. I would see what's really exciting about tech is that it can be personalised for people throughout each of those stages of life. And I think the personalised healthcare and thinking about also messaging and providing information and support and encouragement, if it's personalised for the person for their stage of life, but also for their circumstances or their cultural background, then that's going to help to really close that equity gap as well, because you're getting the right information and the right support to people in a way that's really accessible. So I'm really excited about what that could mean for personalised healthcare all through the different stages of life.
I might just add to that too, Jude, by just saying a community is not just about place as well. So by setting up a community, you can keep somebody there forever and, happy as well. So for me, thinking about a connection, thinking about a community that you can build as well, no matter where you live, that's brilliant. That's gold for us. So if you can come up with that, I mean, that would, especially for us in Queensland as well, where across the state it's incredibly hard to get around, you know, to get to the top end, especially. So thinking about a community that you can build that doesn't rely on our place is it.
Just building on the community, 3 months ago, I didn't know there was a sport called dragon boat racing. Who's heard of dragon boat racing? Yeah, okay, I hadn't. And we have, there's a wonderful staff member at the QAS who's in a masters dragon boat racing team, and she goes to the gym 4 times a week. She works out, she stays healthy because it's fun. And I think we can't miss this with the commercial opportunity and the scariness of the health risk. Sport is fun. You know, like Nat Cook sells that so beautifully. So sport's fun, but you've got to find your right sport. And I guarantee she didn't know that dragon boat racing was it for her until about 6 months ago. And so finding the right sport for someone to stay active, and you think about mental health and the community and the connection that Rob talked about, I think there's a lot there for the post-elite athlete focus.
And I think the only other thing I'd add is that we often at the ASTN, especially with companies that are emerging, there's that sort of appeal to want to pitch to the big sporting clubs or the big entities. And when you think about sport, I mean, sport at its core is grassroots and community. So from an opportunity side of things, when SportTech's being developed, a great example with Vale, and there's plenty of there's as much opportunity in that space as there is in some of the other so-called more glamorous parts of sport, but they can also be the harder areas to break into. So things, database registration systems, ways to connect, parents and grandparents to their kids in junior sport. Like, there's so many simple things that are potentially out there, and I think it does. My experience, as brief as it is, has been a lot of the focus seems to go shoot to the top, or the so-called top, as opposed to the biggest part of sport is grassroots and community. That is where, dare I say it, we're not all ex-Olympic athletes or high-performance athletes in this room, so our connection a lot of the time through sport is going to be at grassroots or as a fan, and therefore it's the, that connection piece I think that it can play, particularly for the youth today that are obviously so engaged through technology with their phones and their apps and everything else.
Can I add one more thing to that? 10,000 steps. We did a step challenge back in 2020, and Nat and I were against each other, and Steve Renouf and others as well. And it was just so much fun to look at everybody across the state. There was a leaderboard, and there was myself and Nat and Steve, and I can't remember who else, but anyway, they don't matter because we won.
Yeah, I'm guessing who were the most competitive too there, yeah.
I won. I beat a 5-time Olympian. I just like to tell everyone that because I could step a lot, because my steps are way smaller than Nat's. But I've got to say, it just brought a community in, and so we still do it. My father is in a wheelchair and still is on 10,000 steps and still logs his steps that you convert as you wheel as well. And my father is incredibly proud of that. So, bringing in someone like Nat, me, my dad together, amazing. So that's a perfect example of a really, really nice community, and that's all through tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, good points made as well around, it's fun. And I think that with, certainly the companies in this room and the research that's being done out there, like, there are ways that tech is being applied to make it more fun, to make it more inclusive, and there are certainly companies in the room who are doing that work around personalised experiences. So hopefully that resonated for a lot of you. Now, probably one of the final sort of questions that I'll have, because we do get asked this a bit, but probably not enough, and I think it's something that would be useful for the people in this room, particularly those in sports tech companies who want to pitch and want to get customers. And that's what we hear a lot, that companies, quite understandably, that companies would prefer a customer to a grant. And so I thought we've got a really good panel here that probably can give some insight into, you know, if you want to go and, you know, be engaged by a QAS, by a Health and Wellbeing Queensland, you know, who have got priorities and programs. You know, ASTN work with a lot of sporting organisations and companies. And so for the sports tech companies in the room, the researchers, etc., like I put to, I guess, a question for all. What do companies have to do or prepare? Like, you know, what do they have to show you that you're confident that you would be able to work with them?
Ours is simple, add value. It really is that simple. We have a partnerships team. There's a QR code on my left shoulder, I believe. And we're open to ideas. Don't wait till Brisbane 32 to share them. These things take time to have trust and faith in them. We're working hard to share our problems openly with the community. We really value what this kind of forum is presenting. We're really thankful for the investment that the Queensland Government give us, and we have to spend our money, and it's a finite pool, in the most impactful way. And the way data can leverage impact is incredible. So if you think you can add value in any way, and we'll do our best to share with the market what that looks like over this you know, moving forwards. But it's that simple. Look, Queensland has the greatest density of Olympic athletes of any state. So there might be more fans in other states, but there's not more athletes that can make an impact for the Australian team. So there's a lot of facilities, there's just a lot of opportunity, and you may have heard the Olympic Games are coming here in 10 years. So that's just add value, whatever it might be.
And sorry, I guess to tease out, Mark, so, you know, there's the QR code, but when you say add value, is it a succinct pitch? Is it a case study? Like, what do they need to give you or show you?
And look, we're going to work with a leader on what that looks like and what some of our really gnarly questions are. Because to be honest, it could be like, so aggregation of data is a challenge for us at the moment. We don't need more books, we need a librarian. That's our problem. We need to package it together. We have really bespoke problems like customised padding for wheelchair athletes so we don't get pressure sores and we're missing games. We've got some other stuff going on with female athlete health that we think data can really help with. So it's pretty broad. I wouldn't be able to give you a shopping list, but what I would say is if you think you've got something that can add value for us, please get in contact and we can have the discussion.
Certainly some of the different things that we see across particularly our programs would be the shorter that pitch proposal, the better. Really getting straight to what you offer. Obviously, is it a validated technology? You know, really high-level pitches are the key. But one of the really interesting ones I think that I've picked up in the last sort of 6 to 12 months is so many of the sport tech development, there's a real story behind it. So the founders have initiated the technology, the why they're getting into it and why they're developing the program. And as much as you don't want it to be a sell on yourself, if you do get that foot in the door or you've got that interest from a potential customer or someone who's going to invest in your business, why you're doing it is quite compelling, because I would say 9 out of 10 times the stories behind it are very genuine, very authentic. And so somebody who's developing technology for health, for grassroots, for high performance, will often have really strong, relatable experience or background that connects to it, and it's all sorts of different people. So I think, you know, the short, high-level pitch, but the why are you doing this? Why did you get involved? Because it's as I said, 9 out of 10, there's a really strong interpersonal connection that you can draw on that I think really helps those companies present their technology and why you should look at it.
Yeah, great advice. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the tech and it's like, you know, telling what it actually does, making that story really compelling and understanding the difference it makes.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of obviously tech-focused people that have obviously had ideas and are developing it, but there's also a lot of people that have just had different life experiences or things that have, you know, that is why they've gone, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do a start-up and try and build this technology. And the stories, I said, I find are always quite compelling because there's a backstory, a genuine backstory to it. Like I said 9 out of 10 times.
For me, it's about what you know about us and what we've got to deliver on. For us, it's about diabetes, chronic disease, health, and for you to come to us with a solution around that or to work with us around that, that's got to be the most important thing for me. So certainly not I'm coming to do a bit of a, bit of a job, bit of a gig here and I, want to retire soon. We're not the place for you. So this is about the way that we can actually change the health of kids and the next generation of kids. And if you can't do that or you don't want to do that, then we don't want to work with you. So we have to have the people who want to leave a legacy with us because we don't have time to weed out the ones who don't want to do that. It's all about the values for me.
Awesome, thank you. And so that laser focus on what health and wellbeing Queensland are about and have to deliver, and I assume that QR code will take people to that. So if you have a solution for that, talk to Robyn and the team, and if you don't, then don't. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm too old.
Fair enough. And just, I guess, any sort of, and I'm going to open this up for any comments or questions from you guys from the room. We've heard that Queensland is the most athlete dense state. We've heard about particular focuses. We've heard about some of the challenges and opportunities in Queensland as it exists, being geographically dispersed and population-wise dispersed. We have a very high percentage of First Nations people, and we've heard that there are some scary statistics at the moment that we need to turn around in that space. And so I guess with what we're doing to try and build the work that you've all been doing out by yourselves often to develop the sports tech industry in Queensland, what makes Queensland a great place to be for sports tech? Some of it might be access to athletes who are here, but what are those, and for those companies who are out there, are there any particular comments or compelling statements that you want to make or questions around why you think Queensland's really well placed to establish ourselves as a sports tech capital?
I can start with that one. Can I start with that one? I feel like 2032 for us is just a little bit different. So when it was announced, I just feel like there was a sense of community immediately, and everybody went, we are going to nail this. Like, this is going to be amazing, and we are going to bring in. We're going to bring in everyone. We're going to bring in the kids. We're going to bring in schools. We're going to bring in health. We're going to be. So I have seen this before, and I haven't felt like this before anywhere, and I just feel like for us 2032 is good. We're doing the work already, and we're not sort of mapping and scoping and doing all that. We're actually getting it done, and I feel like there's a community, and the leadership is here because they want to be here, because they actually want to make a difference. They don't just want to build a road. They want to make a difference to the health of our people and our kids, no matter where they live. So, for me, it just doesn't. It doesn't compete with anywhere else. I just think we might be winning already.
I mean, I was lucky to live in London for 8 years in the lead up to 2012, and the collective civic pride that you have, it's tangible. It really is. And just to build on Rob's point, it's coming. What a time to be involved in sports tech with the biggest show on earth coming in 10 years, with more investment. It will drive so many positive factors, and we've just got to find a way to connect. But just a huge opportunity to address more than sport. The health metrics that Rob talked about are, quite frightening.
Nick, you can yell. Tremendous.
Awesome panel and fantastic talks and a lot of your passion. It's hard not to get caught up in the energy and putting out what's the best way to actually connect with other tech companies or other interesting businesses that are in this space in the state? Is there a central place where that community can come together and talk online, or is there something like that that's been
So at this stage, no, that I'm aware of. I'm happy to be corrected, but there's not a central SportTech portal or anything like that. Obviously, we have the SportTech database, Advanced Queensland, who are within Queensland Government, the Innovation Initiative, and they're industry agnostic, so they have a range of innovation programs, etc. And so they also have sort of communication channels. It is something as we develop the strategy that we'll look at, like how the community can connect. Something that we are very passionate about is that this industry and this ecosystem needs to be owned by all of us. And so Queensland Government isn't responsible for establishing the industry and administering the industry and running it. We're an important part of it, but so are all you guys. So our intention is to empower this industry within Queensland so that the Queensland Government and all governments play the role they need to, but we don't pretend that we can and should do everything because, you know, government works in a way that isn't sometimes as nimble as other areas of the industry can be. So.
So Lucas Manacroft, we've got an innovation tech business here. We've been in the precinct for 5 years now, heavily involved in the tech ecosystem, tech startup, raising capital in states, etc. I'm only new to the sports tech sector, and what I've realised is there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration. And so to answer your question, we've actually set up a group locally where we're all helping to collaborate and communicate and work with each other. At the end of the day, we're all trying to solve a massive problem, and there's huge opportunity for all of us. And so happy to share deets and anyone else who wants to be involved. The main aspect is we all have technology. We're all trying to solve a particular niche in what we're solving. How do we work together to solve it together? And then how do we open up doors? If we can collaborate, connect, partnerships, get in front of the right people at the right time, and that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. So hit Lucas up, and we'll also get those details and we'll send them out through our SportX.
Just really quick, it's a great point that even we at the ASTN need to think more about that as well. I mean, we have great programs that we've been supported with, but to help try and further that collaboration, it's an observation I'll take away as well. I think Queensland has done it better than any other state with these different forums and events. We don't see anything else like this around the country. But I can take away how we can lean into that as well is something that, is part of our evolution. The ASTN's only been around 11 years and really only been functioning at almost above a startup level itself for the last sort of, 18 months to 2 years.
Awesome, thank you. Now, I hear we have a loudspeaker here who's not going to need the mic.
Just one question. How are we to, we've got sort of one QIS, and we've got another one, how do we sort of work together so we're not trying to create a problem by your participation? We want it to be fun. Obviously, those participation. Then we've got one performance that we want to identify potentially at a young age that could cause burnout, isolate to an individual sport, and then stop the participation, stop the fun, that potentially allow us to not identify a wider group of people. So how do we sort of talk together about this as well?
It starts by recognising the spectrum, and acknowledging it. I think we all play in different parts of the beach. So, for example, Chelsea and Rob will talk. So we're in the high performance area. There's sport and recreation, which is more participation. There's clearly a link to health, but as Rob said, that kind of sprinkles across everything. So what I've seen since coming into the QIS is between QIS and sport and recreation, they work well covering participation into elite. The other thing is a lot of athletes they're great coaches. They become great coaches. And some coaches can go on to have a professional coaching career, but most go back into the community and just a really positive influence on local sporting clubs. So linking the spectrum and communicating clearly about the goals and the strategies so they don't overlap, that's what I've observed. I don't know if you want to build on that, Rob?
I just want to say that now we've got some governance now where we link, is it 24 government departments now, Jude, where we meet once every 6 weeks or so to talk about equity and things like this which weren't there before. So now I'm in the room with others around, sport or schools or health or, things that I wouldn't have been in the room with before. So it's good at the moment. I forget what else I was going to say, actually. Jude, making healthy happen as well brings everything together too under a sort of a strategy where we've got our ministers who have approved, who will approve this and endorse it as well. So we've got now ministers for transport, ministers for arts, ministers for other things as well, who will be working together with us on this.
Thanks, Rob. And yes, I'm happy to plug Making Healthy Happen. So the strategy, it's a 10-year strategy through to 2032. But we're starting with a first 3-year action plan. And this action plan is capturing the existing commitments of government that are contributing to obesity prevention across the state. And we're working with 12 other government agencies on 40 actions. And it will cover 3 specific ambitions. One ambition is around creating healthy and sustainable and supportive environments that encourage people, that provide those opportunities for more physical activity and for healthier eating. So that's really, really important to look to try to address those bigger issues. The second ambition is around supporting people to be as healthy as they can. And I think that that's really important around the community-driven solutions and the communication. And the third ambition of the strategy is around enabling better access to prevention, early intervention and treatment and care.
So Judy, for this group, it would be ambition 2 that you would really want to, you would really need help to drive it, wouldn't you?
I think there's a lot of scope there.
Nat?
Thanks, Nick. Great job up there on the panel. Just from perspective to Will's comment and what the continuum of, where we all start as high-performing athletes, and we're all high-performing in this room. We're high-performing in our own health. How do we be the best we can be every day to show up for our family, our friends, our parents, our teammates, our work colleagues, our businesses? And so that involves walking, running, exercise, sport, fun or not. For me, training wasn't fun, but winning was, and everybody's different. So when you start as a young athlete in grassroots sport, I was in every sports club there was, from swimming to taekwondo to BMX to skateboarding to Vigoro to netball. And you watch the Matildas documentary. Anyone seen the Matildas series all the way to the end? A lot of those athletes watched Kathy Freeman run and wanted to run like her. And there's a continuum of, Tiani, how many kids play grassroots sport?
That's the technical term.
About 3 million, right? How many, Robyn, what's the population in Queensland? 5, right? So that's over 50%, 60% play grassroots sport. Mark just said there are 500 in the Queensland Academy of Sport. There are 500-ish that'll represent Australia at the Paris Olympics. And anybody got stats on how many Paralympians? There might be 180.
20, I think, 120.
120, but represent Australia, about 50 from the QAS. So the numbers are, they start out broad, and to Will's point is, how do you make healthy happen at all levels?
Well, Nat, can I say too that kids in Queensland, we've got about 250,000 kids now with a chronic disease. So 250,000 kids just in this state. So,
how do we bring those down? How do we increase?
It's got to be schools, it's got to be the teachers, It's got to be the families, it's got to be a range of things. It can't just be a single thing.
It's a group effort. And, Mark, we do need more librarians.